Imagine working your entire life, saving every single penny, and going into massive debt just to buy your dream home. Then, just days after moving in, you hear it, a faint scratching inside your walls. These tiny silent devils are literally eating your hard-earned future away, leaving you with a massive repair bill you can't afford. You hate them. I hate them. We all wish they would just vanish from the face of the earth. But what if they actually did? What if termites didn't exist anymore? Most people know termites for one thing: destroying houses. But outside your walls, termites are running one of the most important operations on the planet. Without them, entire ecosystems would slowly collapse. Not might collapse. Would. This is the story of one of Earth's most misunderstood insects, and by the end, you might actually feel a little sorry for the ones you've been killing. Let's get into it. First, what actually is a termite? Termites are small, soft-bodied insects that live in large, highly organized colonies and have existed on Earth for over 300 million years. That means termites were already here long before the dinosaurs arrived, and they're still here long after the dinosaurs are gone. There are over 3,000 known species of termite found on every continent except Antarctica. Now, people often mistake termites for ants, but they're actually more closely related to cockroaches. And unlike ants, which are famous for hard work, termites have built something even more complex. A caste system so organized that each individual knows its role from birth and never deviates from it. We'll come back to the colony structure in a moment. First, what do termites eat and why does it matter? Termites eat cellulose. That's the tough structural material found in plant cell walls. The stuff that makes wood hard, leaves fibrous, and dead plant matter so resistant to breaking down naturally. Almost nothing can digest raw cellulose efficiently. Termites can, and here's why that matters. They do it using microorganisms in their gut, specific bacteria and protozoa that break down cellulose into sugars the termite can absorb and use as energy. Some termite species also eat fungi, which they actually farm themselves. Yes, termites invented farming millions of years before humans did. These fungus farming species, called macrotermites, cultivate specific fungus species in underground chambers that help break down plant matter even further. The whole system is essentially a living composting factory, operating 24 hours a day, underground, for free. And the output of that factory is what feeds the soil, that feeds the plants that feed almost every living thing above ground. Now the mound. Some termite mounds are the most impressive structures built by any non-human animal. African mounds of the species macroterms can reach 9 meters tall, the equivalent of a 3-story building, built by insects a few millimeters long. The mound is not actually where most termites live. It's a climate control system. Hot air produced by the colony and the fungus gardens rises and escapes through pores at the top of the mound, while cooler air is drawn in near the base, keeping the internal temperature almost perfectly constant, sometimes within 1 degree Celsius, regardless of whether it's 40 degrees outside or raining. Human engineers have studied these mounds and used the design principles to build more energy-efficient buildings. The Eastgate Center in Zimbabwe is one famous example. A large building designed without conventional air conditioning, modeled partly on termite mound airflow principles. Termites solved passive climate control millions of years before humans figured out they needed to. And they did it without a single engineer, blueprint, or meeting. Here's where we get to the heart of it. Termites are among the most important decomposers on Earth. In tropical and subtropical ecosystems, African savannas, Asian rainforests, South American jungle, termites process more dead plant matter than virtually any other organism, including earthworms. When a tree falls in a tropical forest, termites are often among the first organisms to arrive and begin systematically breaking it down. This releases trapped carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus back into the soil, feeding plant roots and fueling new growth. Without termites, this process slows down dramatically. Dead wood, leaves, and plant matter pile up, soil loses its nutrients, and the entire food chain above it begins to weaken. Termites also transform the physical soil itself. Their tunneling aerates the soil, creating pathways for oxygen, water, and nutrients to reach deeper plant root systems. Studies in African savanna ecosystems have found that areas with active termite mounds have significantly higher plant diversity, more water retention in the soil, and better survival during drought. These mound zones have been called islands of fertility by researchers who discovered that during droughts these areas remain productive long after surrounding land has dried out. And any animals living near those mounds get a survival advantage that can mean the difference between making it through a drought and not. Termites are effectively ecosystem engineers. There's one more layer to why termites matter. They are an enormous food source. Termites are eaten by hundreds of animal species. Aardvarks eat almost nothing else. Pangolins have evolved a tongue longer than their own body specifically to reach into termite tunnels. Birds, frogs, lizards, and primates all rely on termites as a protein source, particularly in dry seasons. Humans too, in many parts of Africa, Asia, and South America, eat termites as a protein-rich food source. They're high in protein, fat, and essential minerals and have been part of traditional diets for thousands of years. Now, we have to be honest. Termites cause around $50 billion in property damage globally every year. They don't know your house is not a fallen tree. From their perspective, they've just found a very convenient food source. The problem isn't malice. It's a collision between what termites evolved to do and what humans decided to build their homes out of. Pest control where it threatens human structures is reasonable, but the broader impulse to exterminate termites entirely from every ecosystem would trigger consequences that make a damaged floorboard look minor. The goal isn't to love termites. The goal is to understand them well enough not to accidentally make a much bigger mistake. Termites and climate are deeply linked. On one hand, termites do release methane as a byproduct of their digestive process. It's a natural source of greenhouse gas, and researchers continue to study the scale and impact. On the other hand, the soil improvements termites create support forests and vegetation that absorb and store far more carbon than the methane termites emit. In net terms, termites are part of a healthy carbon cycle. In ecosystems that lose their termite populations, soil quality drops, vegetation becomes sparser, and the land's capacity to store carbon decreases. Protecting termite populations in wild ecosystems is, quite literally, a climate action. Now, let's talk about the colony. A termite colony is not just a group of insects sharing a space, it's a superorganism. A collective that functions almost like a single living entity. A single colony can contain millions of individuals and operate for decades. At the center of everything is the queen. The queen is extraordinary. Her abdomen can swell to the size of a human finger, and she can lay up to 30,000 eggs in a single day. She is so large, she cannot move on her own. Workers feed her, groom her, and carry her eggs away to the nursery. In return, she holds the entire colony together. Her chemical signals called pheromones travel through the colony, directing worker and soldier behavior. Next, the workers. Workers make up the vast majority of the colony, and they do everything: foraging for food, building tunnels, feeding the queen and the young. Then come the soldiers. Their one job is protection. Some species have soldiers that spray a sticky chemical from their heads to immobilize attackers. So termites are 300 million years old, found on almost every continent, building climate-controlled structures that human engineers study and learn from. Recycling dead plant to feed the soil that feeds the forests that regulate our climate. Feeding hundreds of species that would collapse without them. Creating islands of fertility in deserts and savannas that keep other animals alive through drought. None of that was on your mind the last time you called pest control. And that's okay. When termites get into your home, you deal with it. But when they're out there in the forests, the savannas, the grasslands, they're not pests. They're custodians. They're engineers. They're one of the oldest civilizations on the planet.